Yo! Video games.
So, I don't know. I guess maybe just read. I'll just read the obituary, if you will. What game died this time? Fine. Okay. Let me just read it. An update on 2XKO. Okay, this is from riotgames.com from Tony Cannon. Tom. I say Tony. Tom Cannon. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a moment to share an important update on 2XKO. This is a difficult update to share, but we want to be clear about what's changing and why. What's changing and why? After a lot of discussion and reflection, we're reducing the size of the 2XKO team. I want you to know that this decision wasn't made lightly. As we expanded from PC to console, we saw consistent trends in how players were engaging with 2XKO. The game has resonated with the passionate core audience, but overall momentum hasn't reached the level needed to support a team of this size long term. Translation, numbers were not great for this game, and even going to console didn't translate into a big enough uptick. With a smaller, focused team, we're going to dig in and make key improvements for the game, including some of the things we've already heard you asking for. We'll share some of our plans soon. We'll do a few more balance updates. Our plans for the 2026 competitive series are unchanged. We remain committed to partnering with tournament organizers and local communities. Our focus will continue to be on supporting the events and organizers that already power the FGC. Basically, like, well, we'll make good on what we said we make good for this year, for 2026. Ultimately, this decision reflects a shift in how we operate. This isn't a judgment on individual rioters or a signal that the journey is over. We're reshaping the team to give 2XKO a more substantial path forward. In other words, we need to downsize to cut the bleeding. About the people behind the game, I want to be clear about something that matters deeply to me. The people who helped ship 2XKO poured years of creativity, care, and belief into this game. Taking creative risks like this is hard, and the work they did is real and meaningful. We're committed to supporting impacted riders throughout this transition, including helping them explore opportunities within Riot where possible, and providing a minimum of 6 months of notice, pay, and severance where it's not. In other words, yeah, most of them are either being let go or they're going to be moved into like league proper, but they don't say here. The number being floated around is like 80 people got laid off today or something like that. But yeah, going forward, I know this update will raise questions and concerns. That's understandable. We'll continue communicating about how things are progressing. In the journey so far, we've been humbled and dazzled by the energy and passion you brought to the 2XKO community. The energy matters, and it will help fuel us into this next chapter as we improve the game. Thank you for playing 2XKO and caring enough to ask hard questions, and for being part of this community, Tom Cannon. Okay, devil's in the details and what isn't said. Didn't say anything, very carefully did not say anything about the future of the game beyond, hey, we'll continue to support the tournaments through 2026, because they've already kind of committed to them, but that pretty much says they don't know what will be supported going forward. When they talk about a smaller focused team, dig in and make key improvements for the game, including something we've already heard us where we'll share some more plans soon. Reflects a shift in how we operate. This isn't blah, blah, blah. They're not doing new characters. Like, there's maybe a couple, whatever DLC characters are close to being finished will probably be finished. But going forward from today forward, like anyone who's work has not started on them, or they're too far away, you can pretty much, they're probably not happening. So now again, I'm not going to say like, oh, that's it, the game's the game is in a sense sunsetting. More or less, like, it is basically sunsetting without saying it's sunsetting, because they don't want to say it's sunsetting, because again, they still have commitments, they still have tournaments they're supposed to do, things that were like supposed to happen. The game just launched on console, but again, like the whole thing is like we're getting rid of the team, because the thing is, it takes a lot of people to make these games, to make all the stuff in these games. Like, you know, and if when you lay off a ton of people, they won't say here, but like, you know, the number being thrown around is like 80. Yeah, like you can, they're not making new content. Basically, they don't even say anywhere about like we're going to continue to make new content. They just say a shift in how we operate. You know, our plans for the competitive scene are unchanged, which is basically like, hey, you know, we'll still support the tournament scene for 2026. But yeah, like the game, we saw consistent trends in how players were engaging with 2XKO. The game has resonated with passionate core audience, but overall momentum has reached. Basically, they're saying like it became it's basically what I said. The game became a sweatshop, and it was just for fucking sweaty, hardcore, you know, tag fighters. Pretty much them only, and it was only, and it was not even all of them. It's just those who were willing to not play a Marvel game for now. So, but yeah, that's basically what happened. But yeah, like that's a very carefully worded statement. That's basically saying like they'll finish out whatever was close to being done for the game this year, and pretty much by the end of this year, it's over. Like. This is more or less like the beginning of the end for the game. I know they're saying like, oh, we're gonna dig in and da da da. No, that means they're going to, you know, fix whatever they can fix from a balance, gameplay, polish standpoint. But don't expect a lot of new content unless that new content was pretty far along. Like finish up whatever was being worked on, but like that was close to being released. So yeah, like the game will get some adjustments, balance adjustments and whatnot, and maybe some smaller things. But like, all intents and purposes, this is pretty much the end. This is kind of like the end here, and the reason is because they don't have the numbers. That's sort of like that's me reading between the lines. That's me kind of like translating what I'm seeing here. What I'm reading here is this. Now to get more into the sort of like the armchair and you know, analyst side of things, here's what I have always said here. A successful fighting game is a triangle. You need three things. You need content, presentation, roster. Usually I say presentation, roster, content. Let's just go with that. Now, 2XKO had a pretty good presentation. You know, so it's a really fine looking game, but it really failed at the other two parts of that triangle, which is roster and presentation. Now, people like the characters that are in the game, but the game launched with like 10 or 11 characters. They added a few more pretty quickly, but I mean, with the betas that were going on for years until release, there were, you know, it was like a lot of the same cast until like they you know, they finally released it. They released the early hour. There was like the final beta and the early access in September, October, or whatever it was. But it came out with it's a small roster. It's a tag based game. It's a 2v2, but it launched with a very small roster. They added a few more as quickly as it could, you know, like Teemo and the werewolf and whatever, and they have Caitlyn in there now. But small roster, very small roster. And then the last one, the one they really, and this is where I really think 2XKO kind of really fucked up in the end, was content. And I'm guessing my gut tells me the reason there wasn't ever a focus on content at all for this game was because they looked at it like, oh, it's like League of Legends or something, right? It's free to play, and you don't need that. So this was a mistake Multiversus made, and their solution was bad, and that game also died, which was you need to give single player people something to do. Like, this game had nothing. There was nothing in this game but online versus. That's all this game had. Ranked and casual online versus. That's all it fucking had. Had like one little Arc System style lobby, and that's it. That was all that was in this game, was just online versus. There was nothing for anyone to do that didn't want to compete online versus. That's it. And that's where they ultimately, I think that's where they fucked up. They fucked up in a lot of other ways, which is the name was bad. The name was always bad. Like Project L, take this L. Project L, maybe not the greatest name, but I think it hit harder than 2XKO. 2XKO was just a confusing name. The official name of your game is a weird acronym. It should have just been called League of Fighters. I have no idea why it wasn't called League of Fighters. I have no idea what R&D they did, what testing they did. You know, clearly it didn't work, but it should have just been called League of Fighters. The name was bad. There was nothing to do outside of online versus. The game also definitely hyper focused and hyper fixated on longtime Marvel players, which, again, that's an audience that just, even if you had every single Marvel player in the world on your side, that's not a huge amount of people. There wasn't enough there to really entice. And for League players, there wasn't anything for them like, oh, well, we'll get the League fans to play this game. Like, they're going to look at it once and go, eh. And like, they'll probably try it, get whopped really hard and fast and be like, well, I could, if I'm going to lose at a game, I could go lose at League. I don't need to go lose it at a game in a genre I know nothing about. But yeah, no, the content was bad. The amount of time this game was in development and for what it released with is such a tiny roster. The roster was not very large. It was way too small of a roster. No content for anything, really. Barely any content. The name was bad. And then kind of the last one, because like, oh, well, it was free to play. Like there was no, well, I mean, yeah, it's free to play as long as you're willing to, put some fucking, kernel level anti-cheat shit on your PC, which reminds me I need to get rid of that. But yeah, like you paid it for a very long time. So yeah, it was free to play. But here's the thing. Those skins, wildly too expensive. Wildly too expensive. It was like $40 for like a skin in this game. Like you'd buy a bundle for like $90 or $100, like for like 3 costumes or something. It was wildly expensive. It was way too fucking much money to get like a costume in this game. So yeah, like FGC is not made of a bunch of like, whales, okay? Like so way too expensive colors for a game like this. Like there's just not a lot of characters in this game, and for having a small roster and then saying $40, for a costume, $100 for 3, ridiculous, way too expensive. So just way too much. Again, so at the end of the day, it's kind of it's really hard to see a game that like it is actually fun to play and it does look good, and ultimately it is kind of like someone needs to stop Steve from ever liking a video game. So if Steve starts liking a game, run. So Arc Raiders fans, to make sure he doesn't mention anything about Arc Raiders. But yeah, like there's just I don't know why it keeps freezing up at this point. But yeah, ultimately just it failed to follow the triangle. I know a lot of people there is a lot of talk about this is proof that this and Multiversus is like ultimate proof that free-to-play fighting games are not a good idea. And I'm like, I don't actually believe that's true at all. Like, again, we had a game with a terrible name based on a franchise that wasn't really meant to, League players are not going to suddenly be into a fighting game, and fighting game players are not suddenly going to be into League. And again, hyper fixating the battle system and mechanics onto Marvel, a very Marvel-like design, is not going to help League players. It's not easing them in. Again, bad name. It was focused, like hyper fixated on a hardcore fighting game community, sub-community, small roster, no content, way too expensive, way too expensive of cosmetics. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course it, in hindsight, it's like, of course this isn't doing well. All of these things are huge fucking problems. Like the games that are free to play out there now. Again, you look at something like Fortnite, you look at something like what many of the big Chinese action RPGs are doing, with the Hoyoverse and the other stuff that I've played, like Arc Knight and Field and Where Winds Meet and other stuff. And you have these free to play games that have massive amounts of content in it, like so much content you may never even find the store. This game has so little content in it, and the minute you try to do, okay, well, what else is there besides online versus, there's the store, and a single costume is $40. Like, that's the first thing you see outside of it. Like, this is the fucking problem here. Like, free to play is not the problem. The problem is that, again, it's that your roster was too tiny, your game was in beta for too long. It catered way too hard to like a hardcore subset of fighting game players. The name was terrible, and there was nothing for anyone to do outside of online versus. Like, it's not 2020, and we're not all stuck inside, because of COVID, with nothing else to do but play games online. This is just the wrong time to be releasing a game with nothing else to do in it besides online versus. So this thing, I wouldn't say it's a victim of one thing, it's a victim of many things. Timing and focus, and again, sort of like lack of content. So yeah, like this is an unfortunate end for a game that is actually fun to play. And I'm not, and again, all this in this whole rant here, I'm not saying this is a bad game. I'm not saying the game, deserved to die. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying, like, it's not exactly, to me, there's no mystery why this game flopped, or not even flopped, but why this game is winding down development so soon. It's because of multiple major factors that I kind of saw coming, and a lot of people saw coming. I didn't think it would happen this quick. I really thought that, in my cynical heart of hearts, I thought the letter I read today is a letter I would be reading exactly 1 year from today. I thought they would go a full year after full release on console and PC before I would be hearing about this letter of winding down development. But they're winding down development already. I have no idea what's wrong with this part of the video. But here we are. But yeah, like, I mean, they put out the console, they waited a few weeks, and they're like, okay, it's not gaining any momentum. Like, it's like, this is one of those situations where it's like, no matter what you do, like, no matter how you justify it, like, the numbers aren't there. The numbers just aren't there to justify how much a full development staff, which could Riot have afforded to keep these people on? And yes, they absolutely could have. 100%. Again, Riot is owned entirely by Tencent, I think. Like, is this something that, could they have kept these people on? Yes, they could have. Could they have done something with it? Yes, they could have. They absolutely could have. Like, they're absolutely, it's just the way the game is now, the plan they had in place, which was like, we'll release 2XKO, and then, periodically release a new character every month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and just kind of keep it going and hope it, like, keeps building up momentum from there. That wasn't going to happen. The way they had planned this thing out to go forward was not going to be profitable. They weren't going to make profit. Like, it was probably a decision of like, okay, do we do something like Multiversus where, we go in and we start like making a bunch of single player stuff, like a bunch of extra stuff for people, while maybe not going offline, but like not really having much in the way of updates, but while we secretly work behind the scenes to make the problem in this, like, they could have afforded that. Yeah. But again, no guarantee that would have really turned the fortunes for the game at all. The problem with this game occurred long before we played the game. And And that was, and I know this game spent a long time in what most people would consider pre-production. The game spent way too long in pre-production, if anything, and honestly, like, yeah, again, the problem for the game started long before the version of the game you see now, and that was just everything from the beginning. Like, when they made a fighting game, they needed to make a game with a ton of content. They needed to be making characters, and the thing is, they needed, like, a big part of the pre-production phase was figuring out what kind of fighting game, this should be. Like, I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't on development, but like, whenever the production on this game whenever this game started production, whenever that was, once they decided what kind of fighting game it was going to be, from that point forward, it should have just been, all right, this is the type of fighting game we're going to make. That needed to be figured out probably a lot sooner than it did, and they needed to just go nuts on the roster, and they really needed to have a decent single player options. Like, they needed to have single player stuff in there, like, from the get-go. That should have been, like, part of development. So, they needed more time on the production. I actually don't think that's true at all, because production of this game was in production for almost 10 years. So what have I always, and the thing is what have I always said? What have I been saying for years is a huge problem in the game industry? What is the absolute biggest crisis in game development right now? What is the biggest fucking crisis? Like the silent killer, the Phantom Menace. What is the Phantom Menace killer of game production right now? And I'll tell you what it is. It's 2 words. Project management. Project management. So, project management, I've been saying for years, is in crisis in the game industry, and it keeps happening. The unfortunate thing is that the result of bad project management is getting a lot of people laid off who don't deserve to get laid off. A lot of talented developers are losing their jobs and livelihoods because of shitty project management. And project management is not just a single individual. It can be, like, you can definitely have product managers who are just like, this guy is holding up the whole thing. But you have project managers and then the people above them, because without good management, without clear vision, without, like, sticking to your guns, you end up with things that, like, get focus tested to death, like, spend way too much time in pre-production, spend way too much time we're just trying to figure out what it is we want to make. Like, if you're trying to figure out what kind of game you want to make, you've lost the plot. Like, then your project is cursed at the beginning if you're, like, trying to figure out what kind of, like, if you're in a fight, specifically this is for fighting game development in particular. Say you're making a fighting game and you're like, we're trying to figure out what we, where we want to go with this, what we want to, we're trying to figure out what kind of game we want it to be. It's like, if you're doing that with a fighting game, you're cursed your fighting game already from the get-go. It's like, no, man, like, if you don't have a clear fucking vision of what kind of game you want to make before you start making the game, you're already in trouble. You've already cursed your fucking project. So, feature creep. We can't even say this game was feature creep to hell because there's no fucking features in this game. So, I can't even say it was feature or scope creep because it doesn't have any features or scope. To me, if anything, it's just like, did they know? I mean, do we know? We'll never know. Who knows? Maybe something will come out in the future, but it's one of those things where it's like, did they know from the get-go this was going to be a 2v2 tag-based fighter? Did they know that was the vision they wanted when they started Project L? Was that what they wanted to do? Is that everything they wanted? Like, did they know what kind of fighting system they wanted on their hands? If they knew all that from the very beginning, from 2016 or 17, whenever it started, if they knew that from the beginning, then why did it take so long to get to this point? And, maybe it was a thing where the approval process was way too long. Like, we've heard about this from, like, Sony Santa Monica, and stuff where like, okay, like say an environment designer is like, I want to change the design of a chair or a door or a ladder, and he can't just go and do that because the art man, the lead of that guy's department, so he's a 3D modeler. He wants to change a chair. He then he makes a chair, and then he tells the lead of his department, and that lead has to tell, the department lead, or and then they go and they have a fucking meeting about it, and then there's like this, okay, did the guy changing it, did his boss sign off on it, and then did the manager above him sign off, and then they bring it all the way up, and then somehow it gets into a meeting with Corey Barlog or whatever, and then he has to, and then they send a fucking email to Sony, Sony Computer Entertainment America, who goes, okay, well, a 3D project environment wants to change this chair. He wants to change the look of this chair, and then he wants to do that, and his art lead signed off on it, and his division lead signed on that, and Corey said he liked it. Do you like it? Does this meet approval and process, for Sony Computer Entertainment PlayStation? Does this meet? And they go, okay, yeah, well, they look, okay, let me look at it. Okay, yeah, okay, let's just. That took fucking a day. It took hours. It took a week to change the fucking look of a fucking chair. That's the kind of thing, and this is why Expedition 33 happened the way it did, because there wasn't this fucking massive oversight, of people, where it's like, if someone wanted to just change something, they just fucking went and changed it. And then maybe the director of the game went like, okay, just said like, fine, sure, whatever. So yeah, sorry, Steve. This shit ain't even a joke no more. But and sorry to all the 2XKO players. Like, it is a fun game. I can't, honestly, I couldn't even say, oh, go out there and buy a bunch of skins, drop serious cash. The time to drop serious cash for this game is kind of already passed. The people are already laid off. Enjoy the game. Hey, if you like it, enjoy it, play it. It's still going to get support for, I would probably guess, at least a full year of support. I mean, spend what you want. Hey, if you really like a costume, go for it. I think $40 is ridiculous for a cosmetic. I don't care who you are. As much as the base roster is only like 10 characters. Oh yeah, that was another thing too. Yeah, and I've said that before. Roster presentation, roster content. The roster being as small as it was for a tag fighter was. I remember I remember when Crimson Knight would literally told me on a stream, like, hey, did you hear they announced they're going to launch 2XKO at the end of this year? I'm like, what? Like, did they announce any new characters yet? And like, not yet. And I'm like, oh man, they wanted that game out. Like, my immediate thought was, oh, things are not looking great for this. They need that game to start earning money now because it's been in development too long. So like, is 2XKO a solid fighting? Yeah, it looks good. It is a good looking and it is a good playing game. But it's missing a lot of stuff. And I'm not really shocked that it's going away already. Or at least, like, winding down. There's this weird thing, I don't know, I wonder about it, where, because, Riot's in a very expensive part of California, and it's like, okay, they made a MOBA, and they made this really successful MOBA. And I think they've made a very successful hero shooter with Valorant. So there's this kind of thing, it's like, well, we need to branch off, we need to do all these other things, and part of me is like, well, maybe not, like, go off onto like tangents into genres and things. I mean, the thing is, they hired a bunch of people who were fighting game people to make 2XKO. 2XKO wasn't just like Riot Games just making a fighting game with no knowledge on how to do it. But there's this kind of like, look, nobody knew League was going to be as big as it was when League came out. But it was a surprise, huge surprise success. You can't the thing I would say is, you can't expect, because Riot had one surprise success or even two surprise successes, you can't just expect them to all of a sudden every fucking project they make is going to be this fucking massive worldwide success. That's like that's unrealistic. That's stupid. That's like kind of another conversation, but that's like another thing, is like, stop expecting things to be huge fucking successes.